Apriorians policy platform. Apriorians promise the end of the 10 great evils within 3 years. These great evils are unemployment, debt, poverty, inflation, pollution, waste, taxation, homelessness, war, and injustice. All of these evils are the product of the state. Therefore, they can be eliminated along with the system that causes them. The model of the state that projects evil onto us through the agency of the 10 great evils is Babylon. Babylon has both an historical and metaphysical manifestation. The historical Babylon provided the bulk of what the modern state still uses. The historic Babylon represents the modern socialist state. Metaphysically, Babylon represents the presence of evil and the nature of evil. The biblical Babylon is evil manifest. But this evil is rooted in the Garden of Eden and is not understood even by the Church. There is a conception of evil or source of evil that predates Babylon. This is pictured in the idea of Adam and Eve eating of a fruit. This description is a picture of freeloading. The fruits of faith are the fruits we produce through works done in faith. The fruit that Adam and Eve wrote was not the fruits of their work but the fruit of their knowledge, not the knowledge God gave them but the knowledge they contrived out of the wickedness of their heart. The freeloader always causes harm. When the parasite is an institution, as is the state, its actions constitute acts of evil. Evil corrupts the ideal, whereas the ideal expresses perfection. We are to be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect. But God is not perfect as a unit, but as a unity. This is something those who claim God as singular being cannot get around. A singularity cannot be perfect because there is no means by which the perfection can be validated. Thus, the substance and nature of God is a trinity. God is 3 persons in one. Christians cannot be perfected in the individual sense, which is why we are perfected as the Church. Our sentience is developed in concert with other sentient beings. We grow our consciousness by means of communication with other sentient beings. Perfect cannot be subject to a standard that is higher than what is being measured. The most perfect foot measure is the standard by which all measuring tools are calibrated. The source of the foot measure is the perfect foot for it to be calibrated against anything other than itself. God is perfect for He is the ideal against which all other forms of perfection are measured. Now, Christians are called upon to be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect. This often results in people trying to compare themselves to God. Programs that require us to ask what would Jesus go fall afoul of the fact we are not God, and we cannot create universes nor judge the quick and the dead. We miss the fact that God is a unity that defines His own perfection. We always fall short of the glory of God. However, we are told to be perfect in the way God defines His own perfection, but the unity of His identity. This is why we need the Church. The Church is no more a building or a juxtaposition of bodies than is a community. The Church is spiritual and metaphysical. It exists only to the degree we have faith in it. Those who see the Church as a physical space they occupy can go through the motions. They do not need to love. They can live with hardened hearts because they do not act in faith. Apriorians' policy platform is two-sided. One side is positive and the other negative. Apriorians seek to do good. This is defined as building the Church, which is accomplished by doing acts of faith. We do works of faith that add value to the world. In the negative sense, this eliminates fear and makes the state and its regulatory elements redundant. The state is liable for 10 great evils, as mentioned above. To eradicate them is to exorcise evil. Our policy platform is centered on the need to confront and destroy evil in all of its manifestations. As evil is eradicated, faith grows. Evil works through fear. Fear is generated by risk. All risk manifests as a threat to property. But this threat is only possible when one lives in fear. Fear only exists when we are outside of God. This is not some metaphysical mumbo-jumbo. It is based on logic and empirically provable propositions. When we take what is not ours, we are always in danger of being usurped by a stronger power. Wars and property crime are a case in point. We are permitted to own only what we create. God owns what He created, and we own what we create. God owns all physical matter, and we own the value we create. Manifest our creation in the form of units of income. We are paid for what we do. This is called equity, and it is manifested as forms of money. Money is units of value. It has no value, it only measures or represents value. The real form of money is no more than a unit of account, created to keep a record of income and expenses, or credits and debits. Our policy revolves around truth and justice, which is encapsulated in honesty about what we own and what we have a claim to. It also impacts what we have to right to lay claim to. We are positive about what we can claim and negative about what we have no right to. We believe all men have a right to what they earn. All work needs to be paid for. But no one has a right to claim what they did not earn, what they did not create through their own labor. Our policy platform is simple: we promise payment for work done and non-payment for work not done. Does this seem impossible or perhaps unrealistic, because it is in a system created for liars and scam artists, for liars and thieves? But the reality is, we do not have to agree to participate in our own destruction. But no political party ever engages in this debate. But it is an important debate. It's not a topic you think about because no one has ever engaged you about the most important of issues. Indeed, it is not engaged in with you, because of the importance of it. They fear the answer you would make, if asked the question you ought to have been asked. The question is, do you want to pay for the costs and expenses of other people? Perhaps you are willing, if needed. So, let me ask an additional question: given that some people are in desperate need, and you accept you ought to help out people in need, are you willing to let a group of strangers decide on who you will help and by how much? Cumulatively, what you are being asked is, do you wish to lose all control over what you earn and how what you earn will be spent? If you do not get the implications, you are being asked if you wish to be a slave or free, do you wish to abrogate all of your rights, or not? Because if you are willing to live without any inalienable rights, continue to vote for the conventional political parties. Democracy and those systems based on it do not work without communism, or at least without a good deal of sympathy with it. Democracy goes back to or is built on a world view. There is no way around this. Either believes in God and all the truths of the Bible, or one is a communist. These are polar opposite positions, and the non-biblical worldview must always assume the world is an unclaimed property available for the taking. Communists assume the world is physical and composed of matter that came into being by pure luck. The world was akin to a pile of gold that grew spontaneously out of the soil and belonged to whoever found it. Otherwise, democracy has no credibility. Communists, and their socialist cousins, think the world is everyone's and no one's. In this view, ownership is based on the law of the jungle. Those who have the power decide who gets what. Democracy in this way of thinking is no different from a gang of pirates who have found a merchant vessel and are dividing up the spoils. If one does not believe in God, there is no recourse but to believe in the sword. If there is no God, then one relies on the martial arts to decide outcomes. If God exists, then God owns the natural world, and we owe labor we do. This input of value is what constitutes the building up of the church. The church being the positive contribution of men. The policy of Apriorian apologetics reflects this truth. We oppose all freeloading. Our platform ensures rewards go to where they belong, to the creator of the value produced. No one has a right to live off of the labor of others. No one has a right to not support his family. Our programs are provided through the church, through the productive sector, because they benefit the productive sector, not the state. Support for Apriorian is support for the church. Our programs build the church, not the state.